Hey guys, so a couple days ago, Finnegan, come here. Sorry. Okay, so a couple days ago, on Instagram, I was posting that I was having wine night and sewing, and I made this sweater, and I posted it on my Instagram, and I got so many responses from people saying that they wanted to see how I did it. They wanted a tutorial, they wanted a YouTube video. So here I am. I am going to make another one of these and show you exactly how I made it. And it is made out of this, which is literally just a giant blanket. So this is ginormous. It's just a big like knit blanket. I love to go thrifting and like look for materials that aren't necessarily meant for clothing and then turning them into clothing. Plus I've been looking for like a cropped knit sweater forever, so that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. It was actually really simple. I didn't have to backtrack at all. I got it all done like relatively quickly. It was a pretty simple project. So it's really just 3 pieces of fabric. It's this main piece and then the 2 arms. That's all it is. I'm going to just show you the gist of how I made this. I don't use patterns, so I don't have a pattern. I don't even know how to read a pattern, to be quite honest. It's basically just me making things up as I go along, but I think it turned out pretty okay, so let's get started. Okay, so as you can see, it is a giant blanket. And I've already made a sweater out of it. So this is just a lot of material. Basically, I just guesstimated a lot of things. Since I already made one, I'll just use the same measurements that I have on this one, or I'll use it as a rough outline. For the first one, I just took a rectangle piece of fabric. I just kind of guessed, leaving plenty of room on the sides for seams and just letting it be a little bigger than it needs to be. So I probably cut out a rectangle about here down, and then I just cut it shorter as needed. I need a scissors. I'm really underprepared. Hi dog. I would probably make it this much wider than your shoulders. So maybe take your shoulder measurement, like a rough estimate of your shoulders, add a little bit of length, maybe to here. I'm gonna just go ahead and cut straight up and make a big rectangle. And this fabric is pretty easy to follow along a line because it's got squares in it, so I'm just gonna follow the line of squares. Now I have my rectangle of fabric cut out. I'm gonna put this bit away for a while because the arms are gonna be done last. So now I've got my rectangle of fabric and I'm going to fold it in half, like so. Instead of making seams up where your shoulders would be, it's just going to be 1 piece of fabric. We're going to cut a neck hole out of this so that it's just a folded over piece of fabric across your front and your back. Hi Finnegan. I would just, what would I do? With this fabric, to create this hem at the bottom, I'm going to need to hem my bottom piece. So I'm not going to cut it yet. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to just hem this piece over. And I'm gonna decide how big I want that to be. Again, I just like made it up. So I'm gonna fold it over. For most fabric that doesn't have a line on it, you'll wanna measure to be exact. So if you want it to be a 3-inch hem, then you'll just try to make it even all the way across and pin it. I've got little squares on here so I can kind of follow the lines. So I'm gonna do it about 5 of these little squares along all the way across. So it's going to be about here, and then I'm going to just line it all up, and I'm going to pin it together. This is going to be the bottom of the sweater, so it's going to go like this. That's gonna be the bottom. So we're gonna put it here, and we want it about right at your waist. You decide how long you want it. And then we're going to fold it over like this. Decide where you want it to hit. You might want to, here, like hold up this fabric in the back and kind of gauge, okay, so I want it to hit around my waist like that. So I'm going to pull it up like that. And you're just gonna there, gauge it. So right about there. And then I'll find my spot that is folded over. I'm following, again, I'm just following the pre-existing line on my material. If your material doesn't have lines on it, then definitely measure it. And then I'm going to, again, measure this and the inch that you have underneath, or the ½ inch or whatever you have as your seam under, and you're gonna add it to this bit. And then you're gonna cut it, and then you're gonna do the same on the other side, okay? Okay, so what's going to happen now is we've got both sides done. Nothing is sewn together yet. What's going to happen now is I'm going to cut out a spot for my head to go. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to fold this already folded in half piece of fabric in half again. And I'm going to find the center. So I'm going to cut a little chunk out of that just to start my neck. Okay, so now there's a little chunk missing. There's a hole in there. And I'm going to cut it bigger so that I can get it over my head, and then I can start seeing how I want this to fit. Are you done? So now that we've got the neck hole cut out, I'm going to put it on, but I'm going to put it on inside out. So whatever seam you decide is going to be on the outside, and I want these to be on the outside, I'm going to put on the inside. Now I'm going to just put this on over my head so that I have like a little poncho on, like this. I like mine a little longer and more billowy, so I'm going to make the armholes be about this size. So maybe like 2/3 of the way down the sweater. So like right here probably, I'm thinking. Yeah, that seems about right. Just kind of gauge where you want it to be. If you want it to be a tighter armhole, if you've got stretchier fabric, this fabric's not super stretchy. You can make a smaller armhole. If you've got less stretchy fabric, I would recommend making it longer. So I'm going to do about 2/3 of the way down. And I'm not going to put pins in that yet because I'm just gauging it right now, and it's going to be hard to take off if I put pins in it. And now that I know it's about 2/3, I'll just eyeball it when I take this off. But what I do want to do is add pins on the sides because it's going to taper. I want this to taper. I don't want it to be this big boxy thing. I want it to taper in a little closer to my waist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the spot where I want this to come in. And you need to remember that if your fabric is not stretchy, you have to be able to still get it over your head. So I'm going to make it a little larger than my waist, maybe about here. And I should be able to get that off. Kind of test it by pulling it over your boobs, but I'm pretty sure that's about right. Pin these together. And don't worry about precision because you'll be able to make them even, ow. You'll be able to make them even when you take it off. So just kind of get the general gist of the area that you're going to pin together. Ow. And then the true test is if you can get this off with pins in it, you'll be able to get it off with a seam in it. So that's about where I think the waist will be on mine. I'm going to try to take it off. I might lose a pin in the process, but I'm going to try not to. So now I'm out and pins are still in their places. And now I'm just going to even them out, make sure that they're even on both sides. Same amount of fabric is happening on each side of one side, and then they're both in the same places on either side so that it's still even and centered. Now that we've kind of decided our placing for the armholes, which I said was about 2/3 of the way down, I'm going to put a pin on the edge there where I think the armhole's gonna end. This is gonna just be a rough guide. So these two pins that you have, This is where the armhole ends. This is where your waistline ends. You're gonna fold it in kind of a triangle, and then it's going to be kind of a straight line up to meet each other. Okay? Kind of try to get that straight. So if you fold it over, you can kind of follow that line. So I'm gonna just do this one side first. I've got it pinned about in the line that I want it to be in. And I'm not gonna do this side yet because I'll just follow the line of the other one once I get it sewed together, just so that they're both even and equal. So now, sorry, now that we have the basic form, obviously this doesn't look like much right now, but I am going to take the fabric, I'm going to lay it out again, and then I'm going to measure out the length of the armholes. Okay? So there's the length of the blanket. And now I'm going to take this shirt, and what I'm going to do to get the right armhole length is I'm going to just lay it, because you don't need the exact measurement. I'm going to lay it like this. I'm going to find where it ends, the sleeve hole. And then since it needs to go around it, I'm going to basically just do it again from the top to the bottom. I'm going to just add like this much to it because I can always trim it. And then I'm just going to cut in a straight line. And again, I'm personally just following the lines on my fabric. But if you don't have lines, you'll have to use a tape measure to make sure you're doing the same length. I hate using tape measures. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my arm out and my wrist comes to here-ish. Since I'm gonna want cuffs, I'm going to probably make it, excuse me, to the tips of my fingers so that I can roll it up and have a cuff. So I'm gonna cut this length right here. Okay, so now I've got this bit of fabric like this, and I'm gonna need 2 of these, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut out another rectangle. Now that you've got your 2 rectangles that are going to be your sleeves, this seems really strange, but you're going to turn this right side out so that it's how you would wear it. And then you're going to take the short end of one of your rectangles, lay down your shirt, and then you're gonna hold this and you're gonna go like this, and you're gonna line up the edge of your sleeve like this, and you're gonna go around. So it's gonna go around your sleeve like this. So this rectangle should go around your base because you're going to stitch all this together around that circle of your armhole, and when you flip it inside out, that seam is going to turn in on itself so that it's inside of your shirt. So pin it all together like this. Okay, and then you're gonna go around and sew it in a circle. So I've got it pinned all the way around in a circle like that. Leave the bottom bits undone because you're gonna need to make those into the final circle at the very end, and you'll see why. Okay, so I've done that on both arms now, so it's looking like a sweater. So this is what it currently looks like. What happens now, before you're gonna close this, what you're gonna do is you're gonna find the length that you like your sleeves at. If you're somebody who likes long sleeves, you might only want to hem it up to like right here, right? I might do that. I don't know, I haven't decided. Also, determining how big you want your cuff to be. The last one I did, I made pretty tight, which honestly I kind of regretted because I couldn't push it up over my elbow. So I think for this one, I'm gonna make it a bit looser. I kind of like it looser and goosey-er. Just do one sleeve to begin with, and then again, like, you can just copy it on this sleeve once you have this one done. I think I'll probably leave mine about this long. Decide how long you want that cuff to look. I'll probably leave it, maybe I'll leave it that long. I'll just tuck under again, just like one little bit for the hem. I'm gonna sew that down so it's a nice another hem that matches this one. So I've got both of the sleeves hemmed up the way I want them. And now I've turned it inside out, which is actually kind of cute. Now all I need to do is figure out how big I want these. The thing is, you can always make them smaller, so you can start out bigger and then make them smaller if you decide they're too big. So I'm gonna pin that. I am going to just eyeball how this is gonna happen. My last one, I went from here and I went down. So I'm probably just gonna do the same thing I did on my last one. I'm just gonna eyeball it. So I'm gonna take this off, and then I'm going to just make a line along here. Both sleeves are sewn together like this, and now I'm just going to cut off this I'm just going to cut off this excess fabric right now, and then the only last two things I need to do is finish up these armpit holes and then the neck, and then we're completely done. So the way that I'm going to fix these armpit holes, you can see that there's like a cross here. I'm going to run the sewing machine over like this once, and then I'm going to fold it back over and run it over this in a straight line. And that's how they're both gonna get sewn nice, tight, and shut. I got the armholes sewed up and together, so there are no armpit holes going on. Now, the only thing left to do is the neck. So, I do actually really like how wide the neck is on my last sweater. So I think I'm gonna try to replicate that on this one because it's kind of nice when it falls off one shoulder. To do that, I think it's gonna need to be, probably go about that much further. I'm only doing this because, again, my fabric has lines, so I can see where the line is. I should probably take it off, but I'm not. Oh God. I am a professional. Yeah, okay. That way it goes like this. It can fall off the other one. I'll fold it over like this, and then I'll fold it over once more so that those little fuzzers don't stick up out of the neck and it looks a little bit more polished. So I'm gonna do that right now, and then I will show you how it turns out. It's all done. Yeah, this one turned out a little different from the other one just because I decided to make some little changes just to see how it would turn out. Like the sleeves, this is a longer and wider. My last one fit more snug, more like this. And the sleeves were a little baggier. The neck on this one is a lot longer, so a lot wider, much more likely to hang off the shoulder like that. What else? The sleeves are longer, so I can like roll them up, cuff them, push them past my elbow. So really, this sweater could turn out so many different ways. It just depends on like the little tweaks that you decide to make. I don't know. I do like this color a lot better. There's no little frizzies. I doubled it over. It was actually not as hard as I thought it would be. That's easy if you decide to do something like that. But yeah, I think that's it. This one I think is also shorter. This one ended up a little long. I like it. I think it's good. But I would love to see how yours turn out. I am quite happy that I figured out how to do this, and I hope that it helped somebody else. So leave a comment below and let me know if you liked it, if there's something you think I should change or wasn't explicit about enough. So if you have hints or ideas or just tips, because I'm not an expert by any means. I literally am just making stuff up as I go along. Feel free to comment below and share the knowledge. Anyway, I'm gonna go edit this now, and I hope that was helpful. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Bye.